In the past few months, hundreds of thousands of small shop owners have joined a movement called a market strike, resisting extortion by local government departments.
34 counties, cities and districts across Heilongjiang have seen shops closing en masse, one after another. An estimated 1 million plus shop owners have taken part.
You can't even call what's happened to the Northeast economy in recent years a decline anymore. It's a full structural collapse.
Heilongjiang, this black soil land known as China's granary, rich in oil and coal, its economy is especially dire.
It's naturally become an ATM for the elite and the central government. Ordinary people are sitting on a golden rice bowl, yet living the poorest of lives. Population loss in Heilongjiang in recent years has reached alarming levels.
The most striking feature of this movement is its decentralization. No unified organizer, no public leader, no unified slogan.
The bandits aren't in the mountains anymore, now they sit in the county government offices. Hello everyone, welcome to PinnacleView, I'm Xishan. In the past few months, Heilongjiang has seen hundreds of thousands of small shop owners join a movement called a market strike, resisting extortion by local officials. This news came from an overseas group called Yesterday. They believe this decentralized, non-cooperative resistance by Heilongjiang shop owners has been a huge shock to the CCP government. China's economy has been declining at a visible pace in recent years, and the three northeastern provinces are arguably the worst hit, especially Heilongjiang, this black soil land known as China's granary, rich in oil and coal, whose economy is especially dire. The situation in the northeast really reflects some fundamental problems with China's economic troubles. Today we continue our discussion on China's economy. Today's guests are senior media figure Ms. Guo and independent filmmaker Mr. Li Jun. Before we get to the black soil, let's talk about black ginseng. Black ginseng is considered a fairly precious health food. Recently, our partner Puritang has been getting a lot of customer feedback on using it. One Chinese friend settled in the US learned his elderly mother wasn't doing well and went back to China to be with her, bringing along Puritang's traditional 9-steam, 9-dried black ginseng oral liquid, giving his mother 2 packets a day. Her energy, strength and daily activity improved noticeably very quickly. Now she can go out normally, even take walks and exercise regularly. The family was thrilled to see such a recovery, so they shared this with us. There's also a friend in the US who had colon cancer surgery and was in bad shape afterward. After continued use of Puritang black ginseng, things improved a lot. Appetite, mental state, no longer as sensitive to cold, all much better. So a friend told him, "You don't even look like you just had major surgery. You're glowing. You look great." There are many feedback stories like this. When your vitality is depleted, using top-grade black ginseng for deep conditioning can turn your whole state around almost immediately. When you buy Puritang black ginseng products now, remember to enter our exclusive PinnacleView discount code JYLT, the first letters of PinnacleView's pinyin, for free worldwide shipping. There are also gift bonuses. Spend $500 and get a whole root of black ginseng free. Spend $3,000 and get a premium grade root added. These deals are genuinely rare. They're roughly tied to the US July 4th period. Whether they'll continue after that, we'll need to check with our partner. So if you need it, take this exclusive chance. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the whole PinnacleView team. Back to the black soil, Li Jun, we saw this news from the Yesterday team and we're pretty shocked. This quiet protest movement involving 1 million people has already been going on for 2 months and we barely noticed.
Right, it's very normal to be shocked seeing that news from the Yesterday team, because this really is a rare case in recent China. Grassroots shop owners organizing collective action on such a massive scale over such a long stretch of time. Right. Let's get the timeline straight first. This didn't start in June, it actually began on April 25th, 2026. That day, shop owners in Qingang County, Suihua City, Heilongjiang suddenly shut down in unison with no public call to action. The authorities offered no explanation either. After that, the movement slowly spread, sporadic in May and clearly picking up pace by June. According to the yesterday team's count, over the 67 days from April 25th to June 30th, 34 counties, cities and districts across Heilongjiang saw collective shop closures, spanning the 4 prefecture-level cities of Suihua, Qikihar, Daqing and Haihei. They estimate over 1 million shop owners have taken part cumulatively. So strictly speaking, this isn't a strict 2-month continuous strike, but a gradually spreading action that started in late April and mainly erupted in June. Now, in early July, shops in some areas are still closing to dodge inspections, though the overall intensity has dropped compared to the mid-June peak. The most striking feature of this movement is decentralization. No unified organizer, no public leader, no unified slogan. The moment shop owners hear an inspection is coming, they quickly warn each other, "Hey, message going out, Shishan, shut that little door of yours quick." They stay closed for days in a row. That way it's very hard for local authorities to pin it on anyone, and it's also why the movement has lasted this long. The direct trigger was fire safety inspections. Starting in early June, places like Suihua reportedly began surprise fire inspections, shops were told to fix violations and buy designated brands of fire equipment or face fines or even closure. Quite a few shop owners reported fines ranging from a few thousand to over 10,000 yuan. With business already hard enough, a lot of people see this as outright extortion.
The way I see it, this is shop owners just lying flat. They're saying, fine, I won't do business. I'll just close for a few days and you can't catch me. That way you can't get me. But you say there's no court, no centralization. I actually find that pretty interesting. It reminds me of Hong Kong in 2019. They said there was no big stage, the anti-extradition movement had no central organizing body. It was be water flowing wherever, however people chose to protest. But that still had a proactive element to it. This feels a bit different, doesn't it, this Heilongjiang thing? This Heilongjiang thing.
Maybe it is be water too. It's just that people were so angry, everyone acted in unison, no organising needed. Like Hong Kong's 2019 anti-extradition movement. Genuinely nobody organised it. People just went spontaneously. All of them.
So this has already formed a grassroots consensus. Right. People feel, if you're going to do this, I have no choice but to respond this way. Based on what we know, this action went from Qingang County in Suihua on April 25th, spreading to 34 counties, cities and districts by the end of June, and throughout, there was truly never a public organizer. No unified call to action saying we should do this or that, none of that. No clear leader either. Shop owners mainly warned each other through WeChat groups, social media and word of mouth. Hey, inspection's coming. Close up quick. Let's dodge it for now. That approach made it very hard to crack down on specific targets, and it's why it lasted over 2 months. The yesterday team calls this a decentralized, non-violent, non-cooperation movement. There's real truth to that. Unlike past protest events, it has no figurehead, the kind you'd often see in rural cases, right? Or a clear set of demands. Instead, it spread naturally through a tacit understanding that built up among shop owners over time. That's a fairly rare form for grassroots China today, but I do think it counts as a kind of grassroots consensus. But if you look at it from another angle, I don't think this movement is entirely without a centre. It does have one. What's its real centre? It's the various inspections and fines from local government departments, especially the surprise fire safety inspections that suddenly appeared in the Suihua area starting in early June. That was really the focal point, right? And then a lot of shop owners felt immense pressure, they reported. Inspections demanded fixes and forced purchases of a bunch of designated products, fire equipment and so on, or else more fines. Business was already barely surviving. Naturally, this is extortion. As more and more shop owners faced the same pressure, they were organically pulled together by that shared predicament. Nobody called for action, but everyone wanted to dodge inspections and cut losses, and the result was a wave of collective closures.
In that sense, the local government's own actions became the very centre that passively linked these scattered shop owners together. The government itself is the centre. Right. Actually, that reminds me, you know how the Chinese used to deal with bandits, thieves, robbers? You could say there was organisation, but that organisation was forced into being by the bandits and robbers themselves, right? Right, so now you say there's no center, no organization. Well, there's still a center. Just don't let the bandits rob you. Of course, the bandits aren't in the mountains anymore. Now they sit in the county government offices. It's a genuinely fascinating situation. It's like Hong Kong having no big stage, but actually there was one. The CR government, the liaison office, they were the ones organizing. They said you can't push for independence, so the people below would deliberately raise a flag saying, I want independence. The people up top say you can't do that, so that's exactly what they do. So this whole thing is mutually reinforcing, each side provoking and feeding off the other. I'm curious actually, what kind of organization is this Yesterday team, really?
Actually, the Yesterday team is really just one person running it. His name is Lu Yuyu, right? He previously founded a rights defense information platform called Fei Xinwen, non-news. Oh, I know that one. Right? Right. He spent years collecting and publishing information on grassroots rights defense and mass incidents in China. By 2017, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison over related activities. Right, he was arrested in Dali, Yunnan. I actually did a segment on this before. After he got out, he kept using the Yesterday account to compile and publish grassroots incidents, data, and timelines. Strictly speaking, it's really more of a one-man project than a formally structured organization. The account is mainly powered by one person collecting information, doing statistics and building timelines, and it does carry some influence within overseas Chinese language circles.
Right. He's really skilled at this kind of database analysis and categorization. Back when he was in China, he also worked essentially alone, well, him and his girlfriend, the two of them, relying on WeChat and scattered information online. He could post hundreds of items a day. His information gathering ability is genuinely strong. People call him a walking Google. So, Ms. Guo, would you say the biggest economic problem in China these days is really the Northeast? It seems like it. A lot of friends from the Northeast all say the economy there is terrible.
Right. You can't even call what's happened to the Northeast economy in recent years a decline anymore. It's a full structural collapse, and Heilongjiang is the hardest hit part of all. Population loss in Heilongjiang in recent years has reached alarming levels. The province's 2024 statistical bulletin shows the permanent resident population at around 30 million, down 330,000 from the year before. Over the decade from 2010 to 2020, Heilongjiang alone lost 6.46 million people. Over the decade from 2010 to 2020, Heilongjiang alone lost 6.46 million people.
Right. Before it was close to 40 million. That's my recollection.
Right. Jilin lost 3.3 million. Liaoning lost 1.15 million. Together, the three provinces lost over 10 million people combined. That's like an entire city the size of Harbin just vanishing, and the outflow hasn't stopped. From 2021 to 2025, the three northeastern provinces lost another 4+ million combined. The current permanent population is only around 94.28 million. As for birth rates, Heilongjiang is at the bottom nationwide. No province is worse off. It's even lower than South Korea, which has the lowest birth rate in the world. Heilongjiang is lower still. The population structure is also badly skewed. Per Heilongjiang's 2024 bulletin, children aged 0-14 make up only 8.4% of the province, while people over 65 make up nearly 20%.
Right, the aging problem is severe. Right.
Right. When there are that many more elderly than children in a place, the society's vitality is basically drained. And that's reflected in withering, hollowed-out rural villages. The latest 2025 statistics show the three northeastern provinces, Heilongjiang, Jilin, Liaoning, rank at the very bottom nationwide in birth rate. The legacy of the planned economy runs too deep in the northeast because state-owned enterprises make up the highest share there of anywhere in the country. The one-child policy was enforced extremely strictly there, which is a big reason today's low birth rate and aging problems are so severe. Then in the 1990s wave of state enterprise reform, a blanket policy cut the Northeast economic foundation off at the root. Huge numbers of people moved south into the interior, and that population loss fed back into lower birth rates. The two sides drag each other down in a vicious cycle. Right now, Heilongjiang is at the deepest point of that vicious cycle.
Right. I joked a while back that the people buying the most houses in southern China are from Heilongjiang, that you could basically rename Sanya Heilongjiang's Sanya, meaning everyone from Heilongjiang has moved down there. And a lot of people, when they hear how bad Heilongjiang's economy is, are genuinely puzzled. Why? Because Heilongjiang is clearly a resource-rich province with a very solid base. So how did it end up like this? The real issue here is, what is it exactly? It's like the Chinese saying goes, holding a golden rice bowl and still begging for food. It has oil, coal, forests, and good farmland. So how did this happen?
Right. Heilongjiang's black soil is China's most fertile land. Old-timers used to say 1 ounce of soil is worth 2 ounces of oil. That's how rich it was. The typical black soil area in Heilongjiang covers about 170,000 square kilometers, with over 7 million hectares of cultivated farmland reclaimed, making it China's largest commercial grain base. China's granary. Heilongjiang has led the nation in total grain output for 16 straight years. Sounds impressive, but look deeper and this black soil has already thinned out, grown poorer and hardened. Then there's the famous Daking oil field, China's largest, discovered in 1959. At its peak, it maintained stable output of 50 million tons a year for 27 straight years, sustaining the entire city of Daking. But after so many years of intensive extraction, what's the technical reality now? Of what Daking pulls up, 20% is oil and 80% is water. They need high-pressure pumps to force the oil and water apart, and the cost is staggering. This shows Daking's golden age is long gone, and then there's Heilongjiang's coal. The province's 4 major coal cities, Hugang, Shuangyashan, Jixi and Chitaihe, were once the northeast's most important old industrial base. Now the coal resources are exhausted. The industry has gone from booming to declining and population keeps flowing out. Houses in Hugang now go for cabbage prices.
Everyone talks about how in Hugang, Heilongjiang, a house costs a few thousand yuan.
Chitai's population dropped from 920,000 to just over 600,000 in a decade. Hugang became the first city since the PRC's founding to undergo fiscal restructuring, essentially bankrupt. But that's the local government itself admitting its finances have completely collapsed. The Greater Khingan Range's forest resources used to be excellent too, but it's the same story now. Large-scale logging over the past decade means forest coverage now sits around 47%, but authorities keep touting an ecological transition, turning cold resources into hot economy, which really just means the old path of traditional timber harvesting has run out, so now they're pivoting to ice and snow tourism, cold climate testing, these new concepts to find a way out since the old road doesn't work anymore. Heilongjiang's problem is right here. It had such a thick base, but decades of extensive planned economy-style extraction have eaten through the black soil, the oil, the coal, the forests, this bounty from heaven, almost entirely, and now the people can't be kept there either. Transitioning now isn't so easy anymore.
Heilongjiang actually produces oil too. We can do the math. Heilongjiang's population is actually close to Saudi Arabia's. Of course, you know, Heilongjiang produces oil. Saudi Arabia produces oil too, but the standard of living between the two after decades is worlds apart, isn't it?
Right, comparing it to Saudi Arabia is actually very telling. Put Heilongjiang next to Saudi Arabia and you'll see both live off resources, yet the outcomes are night and day. Look at population size. Heilongjiang's permanent population is around 30 million. Saudi Arabia's population is roughly the same order of magnitude. The two are quite close. But look at oil output and the gap is enormous. Saudi Arabia has no other industry to speak of. It's built its per capita GDP of over $30,000 on that one thing alone. By comparison, Heilongjiang's resource base is actually far richer than Saudi Arabia's. Besides Daking oil, black soil, China's most fertile granary, the Greater Khingan Range, one of the country's key forestry regions, and coal resources, it was once one of China's most important heavy industry bases. Yet ordinary people's living standards are worlds apart. Per capita income ranks near the very bottom nationally, and huge numbers of people keep leaving. Houses in coal cities like Hugang now can't even sell for a few tens of thousands of yuan. So the difference here isn't really about how much resource there is, it's about who ends up with the wealth those resources create. Saudi Arabia's political system is hardly democratic either, but even with lower oil revenue, a good chunk of it still flows back to ordinary Saudis, directly or indirectly, through sovereign wealth funds and various welfare subsidies. Ordinary people don't even pay personal income tax. Utilities, education, healthcare, mostly government subsidized. In Heilongjiang, the wealth generated by Daking's oil, the coal city's coal, the black soil's grain, has mostly been taken by the central treasury and central state enterprises over the years. What's left locally, what actually reaches ordinary people, is pitifully little. And on top of that, local government finances are stretched thinner every year, only able to function through central transfer payments. So even though both are resource-based economies, in one case the resources became national welfare, and in the other, resources became an ATM for the elite and the central government. Ordinary people are sitting on a golden rice bowl, yet living the poorest of lives. That's the key problem here.
Actually, the Northeast should be considered fairly typical. Within China's economy, it industrialized earliest, urbanized earliest, and is very resource rich. Yet its economy has only gotten worse, exactly the reverse of the South. I remember Jiangsu, Zhejiang, today's best performing economies, used to have very low levels of urbanization, very, very low, and not much in the way of resources. Zhejiang, for instance, barely has any flat land. It's all small hills. And yet its economy developed so well. So I suspect this isn't just an economic issue, it's likely a systemic issue, a problem with the economic institutions themselves.
I've been going to Heilongjiang for decades and it used to feel wealthy. But the Northeast problem isn't just an economic data decline. The deeper issue is a distortion in cultural character. And that distortion is precisely the product of long-term immersion in CCP party culture.
That was before. Nobody manages that anymore. Now they've thrown off the burden. Nobody's responsible for you. I only control what you can't do. But your meals aren't my concern. Your health isn't my concern.
But this system has been running for decades. The Northeast's inherent bold, impulsive brotherhood code temperament got twisted together with the system's imposed obedience, docility and seniority-based hierarchy, all crammed into one body, and it warped into a very peculiar character that Northeasterners have today. On one hand, resignedly obeying whoever's in charge. On the other, privately harboring a lot of resentment toward the system. A few drinks in, they start cursing it out. Then the next day go right back to work at the factory, obedient as ever. That character gets projected onto officialdom too. Today's Northeastern official culture places heavy weight on personal ties, seniority and picking sides. Everyone can tell at a glance whose person you are. Rules end up being the least valuable currency. Nobody plays by them. Projected onto ordinary society, it means a lot of people would rather scrape by holding on to their iron rice bowl than go out and take risks. The ones who really dared to go out and strike out on their own were the very people who left the Northeast the most. So what's left behind are people who've been tamed by the system for decades, still carrying that brotherhood code spirit, but with nowhere to use their energy. This cultural and psychological contradiction and fracture is really the deep cultural root of why the Northeast economy just can't be revived no matter what's tried. It's harder to fix than the GDP numbers and harder for outsiders to even understand.
Actually, I think the most important issue here is probably the system itself, not so much the character of ordinary people. Because, how do I put this? The Northeast was once the most industrially developed region in all of Asia. In 1945, its industrial output ranked first in Asia, ahead even of Japan. When the PRC was founded, two places had the strongest economies. One was the Northeast, right? And the other was the lower Yangtze region, which really just means the area around Shanghai. Afterward, the two took completely different paths. You can see it, they're completely different. And now it's showing. It's showing now completely differently. So Li Jun, you should have some insight into this, right?
Right. In the early PRC period, there were indeed two regions with especially strong economic foundations nationwide. One was the Northeast, the other the lower Yangtze region. But afterward, the two took completely different development paths and one should say ended up in very different places. Take the Northeast first. After the founding of the PRC, it was designated China's heavy industry base, called the eldest son of the Republic, right? During the first 5-year plan, the state placed huge numbers of industrial projects here. Anshan Steel, the first automobile works in Changchun, Shenyang Machine Tool Plant, and other major enterprises were built one after another. By the 1960s, large oil field development made the Northeast for a time China's most important energy and heavy industry center. Back then, the Northeast's factory output share of the national total was the highest, and its urbanization level was relatively high too. But after reform and opening up, the Northeast's problems gradually surfaced. Long dependence on the planned economy and large state enterprises left its industrial structure extremely narrow, with low marketization. During state enterprise reform, the Northeast endured tremendous pain. Huge numbers of workers laid off, aging equipment, no new industries to take over. Entering the 21st century, resource-based cities declined, and population outflow became an increasingly serious problem. GDP growth in Heilongjiang, Jilin and Liaoning has long lagged the national average, and young people have flowed in large numbers to the Yangtze and Pearl River deltas. Now look at the lower Yangtze region, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, Shanghai. Historically, Jiangnan had this commercial tradition, and after reform and opening up, this region took a completely different path. Of course, both regions now also face similar economic pressures. The Northeast's problem is more structural. After the decline of traditional industry, new growth drivers were never effectively built up, and population and talent have been severely lost. The lower Yangtze region, while still strong overall, has also been hit by the pain of a slowing property market, weaker exports, and industrial upgrading. Growth has clearly slowed compared to the past, and many cities there have also seen economic downturn and employment pressure in the last couple of years quite noticeably.
That's right. Actually, I recently saw that a Chinese economist named Gao Shanwen passed away. And people dug up his old writings. Why did people go back to his articles again? Because things he talked about years ago are now coming true, one by one. And what's the premise for that coming true? That the economic model Xi Jinping is following now feels like it's following the old Northeast playbook. Right, Right? So what did Gao Shanwen say? If things keep going this way, what happens? Young people, the post-80s generation, might as well go back to sleep. Nothing left for you, no more opportunities ahead. So this has stirred up a lot of debate. People are very worked up about it.
Gao Shanwen is kind of seen as the prophet who told everyone to lie flat. Right, I guess that's him. Well, judging by where policy is heading now, quite a few people do think this trend exists. Over the past decade plus, China's economy has shown a clear pattern of the state advancing while the private sector retreats. Right. State-owned enterprises keep expanding in key sectors, while private business keeps having its space squeezed. Whether it's antitrust enforcement, tighter platform economy regulation, the push for common prosperity, or security and development given equal weight, it all reflects the state's steadily growing hand in directing the economy. And this model tracks closely with the old Northeast's heavy industry, state enterprise-led path, basically the same road, right? Back then, the Northeast leaned on the planned economy and big state enterprises to prop up a period of glory, but later, because its industrial structure was too narrow and it lacked market vitality and innovation, it eventually fell into long-term decline. So a lot of people worry now that if we keep going down Xi Jinping's road, we could genuinely repeat that mistake and end up on a dead-end path. Right. Gao Shanwen's recent passing really did remind people of that fairly pessimistic thing he said a while back, that young people might as well go back to sleep since there's no opportunity left anyway, right?
There's another important point, because his communism has no faith at its core. He believes it's just man conquering heaven, that everything can be achieved through design, planning, control, and calculation. He achieved through calculation. He doesn't know the meaning of reverence for heaven, for the divine. He genuinely believes everything is something he engineered himself, and that's how we got today's result.
So the Northeast problem really isn't a regional problem at all. It's a problem with the CCP system itself. Honestly, Heilongjiang has black soil, oil, coal, forests, all the profit, all the money has been taken elsewhere, supposedly to develop other regions' economies, but really it's just gone to feed the Communist Party. To put it bluntly, all that money has just been taken away. If this same place were under any other kind of governance, ordinary people's lives would be so much better than they are now. I think Heilongjiang's market strike may look like resistance against government fees, but it's really just a natural, instinctive reaction from ordinary people. I think if Zhong Nanhai can't read this signal, then honestly the outlook for China or for the CCP is going to be very, very grim. All right, that's all for today. Thank you so much to our two guests, and thanks to all of you for watching. See you next time.